Frozen breath, bracking like splitting the pine. Trace the map of the synaptic line. I calibrate the weight of the cold on the edge, standing before the infinite ledge. I am brassers frozen to skin and the wrist, killing the tremor that lives in the fist. Bone marrow hardens like hardware set, kill the regret and the fear and the threat. Nerve ending severed like snapping a lead, empty the data that clutters the head. I read the physics of blood on the steel, harden the cartilage skipping the field. Tendons are cables and muscles are gears, cutting the pathway of primitive fears. Binary frost on the edge of the blade, enter the code where the slaughter is made. Sever the nerve, sever the nerve, the geometry of the vulnerable vertebrae. Sever the nerve, the anatomy of the gods in the grave. Pulse dropping down to the 30-beat mark, lighting the physics of war in the dark. Numb facial muscles are static and stone, rule on a high and occipital throne. Snowberrying boots in the tib by your shaft, master the math of the killer in craft. Calibrating blizz of strike to the rib, breaking the cage and the lies of the crib. Oxygello in the channels of breath, algo rhythm running the logic of death. Scanning the horizon for heat in the white, turning the cortex away from the light. Synapses at the firing without the response, killing the needs that the sentinel wants. Skeletal structure is locking in place, zeroing out the expression of fate. Sever the nerve, sever the nerve, the geometry of the vulnerable vertebrae. Sever the nerve, the anatomy of the gods in the grave. Pulse dropping down to the 30-beat mark, lighting the physics of war in the dark. Numb facial muscles are static and stone, rule on a high and occipital throne. Pulse at the 30, pulse at the 30. Larynx is frozen and dry and the dirty. I am the sentinel fixed at the edge, signed in the marrow, the hardened pledge. No software running for mercy or pain, ice in the fissures and void in the brain. Of crushing the skull, making the census of enemies know. Axes and in the face linked to the arm, Swiss stem is closing the signal of harm. Laws of the physics of shattering bone, I am the hard driver murder alone. Scrapping the frost from the optical lens, waiting for movement to start to commence. Calibrate tolerance, tensile and strength, knees you the mortality by the loaf. Femur and scapula split in the storm, I have no temperature to be warm. Sever the nerve, sever the nerve, the geometry of the vulnerable vertebrae. Sever the nerve, the anatomy of the gods in the grave. Pulse dropping down to the 30-beat mark, lighting the physics of war in the dark. Numb facial muscles are static and stone, rule on a high and occipital throne.
Scanning the horizon for the weakest point, steel calibration to the lowest joint. Thoracic cage is a locked design, tracing the faults in the vertical spine. No mercy needed, only clean data. Execution logic for the traitor and hater. Blade meets marrow in a cool degree, calculating physics of the enemy. Me, scapular pressure in a 45 tilt, driving the eye another way to the hilt. Surgical axe precision cuts the path, binary sequences of northern wrath.
Anatomy of a flaw, break the physics of the jaw.
Crush the bone, break the shell, calibrate the impact where the weakness fell.
Anatomy of a flaw,
Feed the data through the iron claw. Measure the gap, snapping like a frozen branch, initiating biological avalanche. Met a couple shards in the bloodstained snow, following the vectors with the trajectory's gold. Femur impacted a maximum load, watching the cellular structure corrode. Ligaments tearing under heavy torque, precision handling like a tuning fork. Pelvic instability on the white plane, severing the impulses sent to the brain. Hip socket rupture is a system breach, pulling the vitals from the victim's reach. Tendon snaps under the weight, locking the gates of mechanical fate. The shattered clavicle bone starts to yield, clearing the rubble from the battlefield. Steaming red fluid on white ice spreads, processing the fibers and the neural threads. Pupil dilation mapping tracks the yen, watching the optical nerves unbend. Biometric failure in the sternum wall, logging the metrics of a physical fall. Phalanges crushed to a powder fine, ending the program of the bloodline. No room for pity in the cold machine, keeping the blade and the execution clean. Ripper rip the architecture breaks, correcting the flesh and the errors it makes.
Anatomy of a flaw.
Break the physics of the jaw. Crush the bone, break the shell, calibrate the impact where the weakness fell.
Anatomy of a flaw.
Feed the data to the iron glow. Measure the gap, strike the vein. Only the geometry of permanent pain. Final calibration of the broken frame, removing the vessel, removing the name. Carpal tunnel collapsed and void, hardware liquidated and destroyed. Intercostal muscles cease to pull, system shut down as absolute and full. Anatomy of a flaw is complete, blood freezes solid at the hunter's feet. Task finished, structure neutralized.
Needle frozen in place, iron oxide dead in the casing space. 0-point logic, geometry cold. The hardware is shattered, the marrow is old. Wind sharing skin from the jaw to the eye. Calibration of frost in the carbon black sky. Steel in the tendons, lead in the thigh. There is no emotion, only data to die. Ribs crack under gravity pull. The skull is a hard drive and the buffer is full. Axes are vector, shields are the code. System is crashing on the northern road. Ice in the synapse, glitch in the nerve. Gravity vectors begin to uncurve. Kneel to the pressure, bow to the weight. Commander Winter is scanning the gate. White out blindness. The architecture of the end. Ribs are the pillars that the winter won't bend. Commander of atoms, lord of the scale. Calibrated fury in the iron sharp hail. Bone to the glacier, marrow to stone. The blizzard is king on the absolute throne. Minus 40-degree lungs, ice coating language, freezing the tongues. Bronchial fracture, thermal decay. Physics of slaughter is leading the way. Vertebrae clicking like gears in the clock. The blood is a liquid that starts to self-lock. Shield wall is math, formation is grid, doing exactly what the atmosphere bid. Nerves of the wiring pulled until tight. Processing darkness, processing light. No mercy found in the chemical bond. No signal reaching the regions beyond. Oxygen levels drop to the floor. Commander is kicking in the sternum door. Pelvis is crushing, femur is split. The void is a program, this is the it. White out blindness. The architecture of the end. Ribs are the pillars that the winter won't bend. Commander of atoms, lord of the scale. Calibrated fury in the iron sharp hail. Bone to the glacier, marrow to stone. The blizzard is king on the absolute throne. Physics is conquering, biology fails, driving the frost like industrial nails. Tendons are snapping, cables in gale, the biological system is hollow and frail. I am not fighting, I am the host. Host for the data, host for the ghost. The blizzard is officer, I am the rank. The fuel cell is empty, nothing in time. Geometry locking the knees to the mud. Frost is the driver, ice is the blood. Commander is speaking, the signal is clear. There is no survival, there is no fear. White out blindness, the architecture of the end. Ribs are the pillars, that the winter won't bend. Commander of atoms, lord of the scale. Calibrated fury in the iron sharp hail. Bone to the glacier, marrow to stone. The blizzard is king. On the absolute throne, zero logic. End of the flesh. Caught in the static. Caught in the mesh. Marrow is frozen. Data is lost. Total alignment. Total the frost.
Cold blast walls, black smoke crawls, tighten leather belt, ice inside this felt, acidic stomach grind, data now defined, calcium is the key, geometry of me, hollow rib cage echo, bone marrow yellow, chewing on pine bark, scanning in the dark, lactic acid burn, waiting for the turn, ligaments are tight, calibrating might starve the meat strike, calibrate the beat strike, system overload strike, predator in code strike, axe in the hand, control the land, thermal vision on, the flesh is gone, vertebrae stack straight, calculating fate, tunnel vision, targeting, metal bolts are harvesting, femur bone is steel, I no longer feel, hardware is the spine, obsidian is the mind, synapse firing cold, ancient and the old, oxygen is thin, underneath the skin, fasting for the kill, iron in the will, tendon stretch and pull, empty is the full, starve the meat strike, calibrate the beat strike, system overload strike, predator in code strike, axe in the hand, control the land, thermal vision on, the flesh is gone. Scan the horizon, target is rising, 0 point focus, internal corrosion, ribs are the shield, blood in the field, nerves are the wire, frozen is the fire, calibrate the swing, death is everything, pelvic bone alignment, strategic confinement, jaw clenched tight, endless is the night, spinal fluid pump, muscle fibers jump, laws of physics bend, waiting for the end, kilojoules are low, ready for the blow, geometry of pain, nothing shall remain, optic nerve is red, counting up the dead, cartilage is hard, mark the final card, starve the meat strike, calibrate the beat strike, system overload strike, predator in code strike, axe in the hand, control the land, thermal vision on, the flesh is gone, I have no more hunger, I
Perfect in the geometric line. Calculated slaughter by a perfect design. Splintered shield wood fragments in the dermal layer. Processing the impact like a silent prey. A steel meets the cartilage of the outer ear. Internal service cell to ring the signal of fear. Pressure on the humerus is 40%. No biometric data of a human descent. Iron on the sternum is a standardized test. Compression of the cavity inside the chest. Nerve endings firing in a binary stream. Reality is structured, not a fever dream. This is not suffering, it is only the grid. Updating the vectors that the ancients forbid. Tactical feedback in the marrow and bone. We are the collectic on the thunder throne. Coordinated strike in the frozen waste. Analyze the metal and the cobalt taste. Synchronized reaction to the open gash. Every single thought is bone and ash. Spearhead is entering the abdominal wall. Calibration stable as the enemies fall. Black blood coagulating instantly in the cold. System is ignoring every story told. Red pixels flash where the vision is torn. A new configuration of the warrior is born. Detached retina drifting in the orbital void. Emotional responses have been fully destroyed. Tactical grid overlays on the icy field. Predicting every rotation of the breaking shield. Fammer is a pillar made of calcified iron. Surrounded by the howling of the northern siren. Vertebrae are locking like a mechanical gear. Logic is the only thing that we can hear. Steel shaft is vibrating inside the lung. A physical notation that is never sung. Mapping out the trauma to the intercostal nerve. Maintaining the velocity of the killing curve. Kinetic energy absorbed by the hip. No interruption to the firmness of the grip. Synaptic relay to the fingers on the axe. Executing orders through the frozen cracks. Cerebral cortex is a hardened shell. Monitoring the output of this physical hell. Oxygen is secondary to the lethal code. Walking down the geometry of the war road. Tendons are the cables pulling on the frame. We do not remember any individual name. My ribs are the rafters of the burning hall. My spine is the axis where the planets fall. My marrow is the fuel for the central core. We are the function of the eternal war. Input, impact, output, response. Logic of the blade is the only response. This is not suffering, it is only the grid. Updating the vectors that the ancients forbid. Tactical feedback in the marrow and bone. We are the collectic on the thunder throne. Coordinated strike in the frozen waste. Analyze the metal and the cobalt taste. Synchronized reaction to the open gash. Every single thought is bone and ash. Clavicle is tapping from the heavy blow. Data is processing the movement below. Fascia is tightening to close the gap. Following the markers on the digital map. Scapula is grinding on the iron plate. We do not acknowledge the concept of fate. Laws of physics dictate the angle of the kill. Driven by the power of the automated will. Neck muscle stiff like a frozen root. Calculating distance for the lethal shoot. We are the hardware for the ancient gods. Calculating victory against all the odds. Calibration complete. System is online. Feedback loop terminating. Wind howls over the battlefield. One mind, one war. One mind, one war.
Calibrating 0, 0. Physics of the bone. Power. Exhale the last data. Interface is stone.
By by blackening fingertips. Blood flow slows as the system dips. Ribcage freezing in the permafrost. Warmth is data that is final lost. Caloric nerves to the ground. Hard in the tendons are the only sound. Vertebrae are locking in the grid. Geometry where the hunter hid. Skeletal construction turning blue. Cutting all the muscle parts anew. Hardened in the marrow, in the core. Open in the cryogenic door. Lungs are filling with the arctic dust. I run drencher covered in the rust. Slowing down the physics of the heart. Tearing all the biologic apart. Roll them all, sing not to a set. Ice and marrow is the only threat. X-blade rhyme covered in the dark. Code is setting in the frozen bar. Zero them all, sing not or clear. Permafrost is all that survives here. Cold blooded in the eyesight trench. Kill the valor in the living stench. Ice crystals on the eyelash mesh. Hardened in the softness of the flesh. X-blade rank of a seal is cold. Ancient laws of physics now unfold. Calibrating vision to the white. Losing every spectrum of the light. Skeletal transmission on the wire. Frozen nerves all that we're quiet now. Punctured with the geometry of death. Stopping with the motion of the breath. Stop! Rigid is the structure of the spine. Crossing at the biologic line. Tendons snapping like a frozen cord. Colder than the edges of the sword. Marrow turning into solid glass. Watch the water but the spark blast. Roll them all, sig not your set. Ice in marrow is the only threat. Axe-blade rhyme covered in the dark. Code is setting in the frozen bar. Roll them all, sig not your clear. Permafrost is all that survives here. Cold blooded in the eyesight trench. Kill the valor and the living stench.
Stem freezing, leaving, no more heat for false believing. I am zero, the bone is zero. Calibrate the end of time, frozen in the Nordic grind.
Ribcage locks in the eyesight wall. Watch the temperature start to fall. He'll make dry ancestral hate. Crushing by your log, I see from the stake. Nerves are red to the frozen core. We don't feel the feelings and I'm raw. Haze eyes of the Arctic in the vein. Freezing out the mammal riot pain. Deadly telegresham in the snow. Blood is not permitted now to flow. Tendons tighten like a reaching bow. Data is the only the hollow.
Scanning the perimeter with infrared eyes. Counting every unit where the skeleton lies. 140 targets turn to carbon in ash. System overload prevented by the logic flash. I measure the diameter of fractured femur bone. Processing the entropy standing here alone. Calculated weight of the calcium stack. 0.0% turning back. The pyre is a furnace with the thermal output high. I refuse to leak the saline from a frozen eye. Lacrimal duct is a welded shut gate. I do not negotiate with biological fate. Caloric cost of the grief is to VAST. Deleting the data of the ghosts in the past. I evaluate the marrow in the tendon and the nerve. Nothing but the geometry of war do I serve. Serve the steel, serve the cow. Zero waste in the thoracic cage. I am the calibration of the ancient rage. Draw muscle locked like a deadbolt. The steel nerve endings cauterized so I never have to feel. I observe the combustion of the tendon and the meat. Extracting the utility from the radiating heat. Throwing in the braid of error, biological trace. Erasing every pixel of the memory of the face. Sentimental token is a heavy metal drag. Burn the sacred symbol and the woven battle flag. Total input output must be balanced in the chest. Heart is just a pop valve beating harder than the rest. Synchronizing breath with the crackling of the pine. I am the architect of the slaughter design. Kinetic energy stored in the fist. Name after name deleted from the list. Synapse firing in a binary flood. Cold is the viscosity of the warrior blood. Blood, blood, blood. Caloric cost of the grief is to VAST. Deleting the data of the ghosts in the past. I evaluate the marrow and the tendon and the nerve. Nothing but the geometry of war do I serve. Serve the steel, serve the cow. Zero waste in the thoracic cage. I am the calibration of the ancient rage. I strip silver leather. From the fallen captain wrist, analyzing variables that no longer exist. Physics of the battle axe and lever of the arm, protecting the machinery from psychological harm. I toss the locket into the center of the blaze, unblinking stare to the hydrocarbon haze. It is not sorrow, it is simply fuel stent. I am the conclusion of the lethal intent. Lethal! Rips all the chassis protecting the core. I calculate the vectors of the coming bloody war. No room for the latency of memory or loss. I will not acknowledge the biological cost. Scanning the horizon for the next point of impact. Every single ligament is perfectly intact. My spine is a pylon of granite and of lead. I have no more space for the voices of the dead. Molecular density increasing in the grip. Firmware update on the warrior chip. I discard the corpses like a useless broken shell. Master of the map in this frozen northern hell. Caloric cost on the grief is to VASD, deleting the data of the ghost in the past. I evaluate the marrow and the tendon and the nerve. Nothing but the geometry of war do I serve. Serve the seal, serve the cow. Zero waste in the thoracic cage. I am the calibration of the ancient rage. Calibration complete. Efficiency achieved. 0 units mourned. 0 units grieved. Only the
The physics are clear, colder than data. The end of the year, ribs on the leather, the framework is tight. Calibrating the rhythm for walking the white. Nerves are the wiring, the signals are sent. Cold in the marrow, the energy spent. Vertex of iron and geometry sharp. No one is playing the strings on a harp. Pressure in tendons, the tension is high. Watching the data stream fall from the sky. Undisturbed snowpack ahead of the boots. Frozen the path to the ancient roots. I am the vanguard, the system is dry. Mapping the coordinates under the sky. Friction is failure, the movement is law. Nothing is left for the hunger to know.
We march
by the code of the steel.
No soul,
no soul, just a kinetic feel.
Geometry call
in the bone and the ice.
Cutting the dead white.
Cutting the dead white.
For the optimal price.
Captive is dragging a break in the code. Dead weight is friction, a block in the road. He pales at the summit, the oxygen drops. The logic of movement, it stutters and stops. His knees are the hinges that fail in the thralls. Calculating the time that is already lost. I step to the era, the dagger is drawn. No heroic music, no light of the dawn. Clean dagger slice through the mesh of the skin. Optimization is where we begin. Gurgling air pipe, the pressure is released. Friction is settled, the movement has ceased. No room for pity, just bone and the grain. System is purged of the dragon, the stain. Dropping the excess weight into the deep. Promises made to the mountains we keep. Wiping steel on leather. The blade is now dry. Gravity pulls at the light in his eye. Calibration is perfect, the mass is reduced to the laws of the physics. The body is loosed, connective tissue, the snapping of threads. Filling the valley with data, it spreads. Bones are the pillars, the skeleton map. Escaping the logic of sentiment. Forward the unit, the sequence is restored. Better the silence than what he implored. Oxygen levels are stabilized now. Ice on the ridge and the sweat on the brow. Synapses firing, the circuit is clean. Nothing remains of the flesh in between. Axis of power, the radius wide. Nowhere for errors and glitches to hide. Marching is binary, 0 or 1. Walking the path till the cycle is done. Ancestral fury in mathematical form. We are the logic inside of the storm. Valhalla is server, the memory bank. Filling the holes where the weak ones have sank. Crush at the tendon, the carbon is strong. Right at the center where
optimal price.
Undisturbed, no pack ahead of the line. Everything functions, the timing is fine. Bone and the marrow, the hardware is set. Paying the void, every stuttering debt.
No more pleading,
No more pleading,
only the speed.
only the speed.
Optimization,
Optimization.
the only creed.
Heavy chrome. Tundra mud is now the only home. Spine is bolted to the iron frame. Combat logic is the only name. Teeth are grinding on the copper bit. Sensors tracking where the axis hit. Marrow code is ice inside the core. Writing programs for the total war. Ribs are cages for the engine heat. Crushing markers underneath the feet. Every nerve is mapped to signal lines. Running data through the northern pines. Oxygen is low, pressure in the lung. Ancient battle hymns on a metal tongue. Iron boot stomps in the muddy waste. Metal in the mouth is all I taste. Axis calibrated for the blow. Geometry of death is all I know. Iron boot stomps on the broken bone. Sitting on a cold and rainforest throne. Radius and ulna turn to steel. Human rhythm broken on the wheel. Piston like knee joints driving through the sleet. Hardened carbon on the heavy feet. Femur replaced by the reinforced beam. Nightmare logic in the data stream. Nerves are vibrating with high voltage sound. Drilling deep into the frozen ground. Ligaments are cables pulled to tight. Processing the targets in the light. Shields are vectors in the space of red. Counting every scalp and every head. Physics of the impact and the mass. Watching every breathing moment pass. 0-1-0, no such thing as hero. 1-0-1, the march is never done. 0-1-0-0, human error. 1-0-1, systemic reign of terror. Metallic lung wheeze rattling the cage. Analog system fueling up the rage. Rusted chainmail friction on the brass. Waiting for the heavy cloud to pass. Oxygen is measured by the gram. Flesh is sacrificial to the ram. Tendons snapping like a bowstring wire. Burning with the dry and chemical fire. Blood is pressurized within the oil. Copper heating in the heavy coil. Vertebrae are welded into place. No more features on the iron face. Biological failure put to rest. Nerves are mapped to every blade and gear. Logic is the end of human fear. Stomp, stomp, stomp. The cadence is the call. Stomp, stomp, stomp. We travel on the road. Iron boot stomps in the muddy waste. Metal in the mouth is all I taste. Axis calibrated for the blow. Geometry of death is all I know. Iron boot stomps on the broken bone. Sitting on a cold and rainforest throne. Radius unknown, a turn to steel. Human rhythm broken on the wheel. Ida's stream is fading to the grave. Iron rods are holding up the clay. 1-0-1. 1-0-1.
I strike the flint, the sparks ignite. I kill the day, I bring the night. I watch the parchment turn to ash. I feel the neural pathway flash. The southern maps, they melt away. The laws of men, they don't obey. The ink is gone, the paper dies. The sword is filling up my eyes. I shatter marble statues white. I break the physics of their might. The limbs of stone, they hit the floor. I calibrate the art of war. My radius bone, it holds the weight. My honor guides the edge of fate. No mercy in the marrow cell. I ring the iron binary bell.
Everything is returning to mud, mud. Everything is returning to blood, blood.
We burn the grid, we break the chain. The frost is coding in the vein.
Everything is returning to mud, mud. Everything is returning to blood, blood.
I take the gold, I watch it run. I melt the coins into the sun. The currency is liquid heat. I feel the logic in my feet. My tendons pull, the cable snaps. I delete all the southern maps. The data burns, the fiber phrase. I end the empire of their days. My femur is a pillar strong. I kill the echo of their song. The geometry of bone is pure. The wild is the only cure. My intercostal muscles tight. I breathe the current of the light. I realign the spinal cord. I am the processor, the Lord.
Everything is returning to mud, mud. Everything is returning to blood, blood.
We burn the grid, we break the chain. The frost is coding in the vein.
Everything is returning to mud, blood. Everything is returning to blood, blood.
Burning tapestries of fold, turning silver into mold. My clavicle is made of steel. I am the only thing that's real. My metacarpals grip the hilt. I strip the city of its guilt. The nervous system screams in red. The logic of the south is dead.
I tear the silk, I burn the weave. There is no reason to believe. The bows in heart are pumping fast. The future is the aging past. I crush the sully marble head. I paint the data servers red. My rev I sets, I stem runs on threat. The north has never lost a bet. The oxygen in lungs is fire. I am the cleansing funeral pyre. The timia is locking down. I am the killer of the town. My gray matter is cold as stone. I claim the morrow for the throne. The 5-6 of the axe is low. I am the winter, I am the thaw.
Everything is returning to mud, mud. Everything is returning to blood, mud.
We burn the grid, we break the chain. The frost is coding in the vein.
Everything is returning to mud, mud.
Everything is returning to blood.
Ashen bone, golden stone, returning to mud, mud, returning to blood, blood. Distant sound of a library collapse. Fire crackling until silence.
Blood on ice that I know. On the ribcage, cracking the frost. Calculate value, subtracting the lost. I step over corpses, I never look down. Ice is the mantle, ice is the crown. Blue lips of the fallen, frozen in line. Logic is rigid, the physics are mine. Colder than iron, harder than slate. Geometry of death I calibrate. Frost in the marrow, marrow is lead. Scan the perimeter, count up the dead. Unyielding spinal posture, vertical line. Gravity pulls, but the victory is mine. Nerves in the finger, static and white. Zero sum logic into the night. Tendons like cables pulling the weight. Closing the circuit, locking the gate. No mercy in the cold harder. Only iron on the road. Geometry of war. Smash the bar. Weakness is the error. I am the blue lips in the snow. Fallen with only data in the air. No fear. I take the rations, I balance the pack. One-way trajectory, no turning back. Please hit the eardrums, data is dead. I process the silence, I move ahead. Anatomical failure, systems go dark. Ice on the eyeballs, leaving a mark. Physical limit reached by the clan. Refining the species, building the man. Calibrate X-wing, angle of arc. Ignite the survival, fan the last spark. Neural pathway, burden through ice. Survival is logic, death is the price. Rib cage is hollow, lungs are a void. Emotional variables fully destroyed. Bone is the hardware, pulse is the clock. Solid as mountains, harder than road. Mercy in the cold harder. Only iron on the road. Geometry of war. Smash the bar. Weakness is the error. I am the blue lips in the snow. Fallen red. Only data in the air. No fear. Ignoring the pleas, they are noise. Ignoring the knees, they are toys. Ignoring the friction, they are ghosts. I am the master of these coasts. Scalpel, skeleton wheel. Calibrate bill, nothing is real. Break the resistance, break the delay. Mapping the plateau, mapping the way. Unyielding posture, spinal integrity. Flesh is the failure, bone is longevity. Scavenge the gear, strip the cold frame. Numerical value for debt in the name. History is written in blood and in code. Heavy the burden, heavy the load. Coast of the frozen arch, I the weak. I am the mountain, I am the peak. Fracture the socket, pressure the nerve. I am the only one they will all serve. Axe is the hard drive, sword is the key. Breaking the encryption of the storm sea. 010 death. Ice on the final breath. No mercy in the cold harder. Only iron on the road. Geometry of war. Smash the bar. Weakness is the error. I am the blue lips in the snow. Fallen red. Only data in the air. No fear. System check complete. Peripheral vision clear. Weakness purged from the file. I step over the last one. I am the only constant. I am the only constant.
Wrist. System reboot in the clench of the fist. Cold stone blade cuts, the derm is clean. Old world logic in the flesh machine. Raw meat opens to the bitter cold air. Writing the code in the cells that we share. No more abstract, no more vague lies. Only the carbon where the predicate dies. White nerve bundles start to twitch into flare. Mapping the trauma in the strands of the hair. Calcium pillars hold
tendon tight.
Glowing red scars in the dead of night. I am the daughter of hell of the black, carrying weight on a straight leg and back. I am the blood of the skaggle, the grim, writing the math on the edge of the limb. Linear spirals in the double white helix, physical constants replacing the relics. Fascious tightening around the new fact, anatomical geometry staying intact. Blood soaked stone is a server we mount. Every red drop is a digit we count. No room for mercy in the bowels of the heart. Only the pump and the mechanized art. Oxygen levels increasing the drive. Biological engines are coming alive. Voltage is climbing up the lateral ribs, feeding the truth to the tongue in the cribs. Crack the casing, reveal the calibration of the proximal joint. Physics of engines at the entry point. Input the lineage into the vein, disconnecting the link to the brain. Geometry carved in the radial nerve, mapping the pathway the muscles will serve. Biological data burned into the skin, where the laws of the ancestors finally begin.
Glowing red scars on the arm and the fist. Post the evolution in the bloody mist. Panic MNT in the grip of the hand. Walking the border of the frozen land. Gore is the frequency in the skull plate. Odin is logic for the weight of the gate. Freya is chemistry in the adrenal gland. Data commands that the cells understand. No more feeling, only the pressure of grit. Bone in the iron or a perfect fit. Crushing the modern with the primal input. Stamping the earth with the heavy iron foot. 10,000 windows in a single strand. Hardwired truth that the gods play. Straight the bone and
Write the file, blood on stone in ancient style.
calibrate the fiber and the tendon tight.
Glowing red scars in the dead of a night.
Straight the bone and
Write the file,
calibrate the fiber and the tendon tight.
glowing red scars in the dead of night. Runes in the marrow, steel in the ribs, code in the blood.
Iron weight on the frozen dirt. Calibration of the limit of hurt. Steel ribs in the clenched jawline. Geometry of the battle design. Left foot pivot on the limestone shelf. Overriding the logic of the self. Calcium grind in the hip socket joint. Blade at the optimal entry point. Pressure dropping the thoracic cage. Writing the code on the granite page. Axe head heavy on the leather strap. Running the program of the war map. Hardware failure in the left lobe vent. Data corrupted and the shield is bent. Tendon tension in the index grip. Never allowing the standard to slip. Rhythmic labor breathing in the dark. Forward lean of the torso hits the mark. Forward lean. Blood speckled snow trail on the ground. Whistling chest wound is the only sound. 3-day march in the iron cold. System functions doing what they're told. Kinetic energy locked in the bone. Walking the tiger completely alone. Biometrics in the sub-zero air. Oxygen levels at a critical glare. Friction heat in the patella cap. Closing the distance on the digital gap. Nervous system is a copper wire. Burning with the signal of the ancient fire. Vertebrae stacked like a shield wall gate. Calculating physics of the body. Wait. Punctured pleural is a leaking valve. No need for mercy or a healing salve. Cartilage crunch in the steady stride. Nowhere for the failing to hide. Anatomical limits are a broken rule. Using the pain as a processing tool. Red cells leaking on the white terrain. Mapping the output of the physical strain. Rhythmic labor breathing in the dark. Forward lean of the torso hits the mark. Forward lean. Blood speckled snow trail on the ground. Whistling chest wound is the only sound. 3-day march in the iron cold. System functions doing what they're told. Kinetic energy locked in the bone, walking the tiger completely alone. 72 hours in the program feed, foster physiology to never bleed. Calibrate the march to the raven flight. Axes are glowing in the infrared light. Bone marrow copies the ancestral file. Victory mentioned but the line are mile. Clenched jawline is a hydraulic lock. Body is a fortress built on the rock. Core temperature is a steady read. Guards in the circuitry are all we need. Step will locked in the forward drive. Only the hardest of the hardware survive. Ephemeral impact on the permafrost. Counting the seconds of the momentum lost. Intercostal muscles in the tight spasm. Leaping the edge of the biological chasm. Synapse firing like a muzzle flash. Turning the weakness into bone and ash. Respiratory failure with a false alarm. Total integration of the weaponized arm. Ligament snap is a minor fall. Marching the army to the final assault. Skin is the casing for the hiding core. Processing the data of the eternal war. 64 kilometers left to go. Leaving the pattern of the blood red flow. Rhythmic labor breathing in the dark. Forward lean of the torso hits the mark. Forward lean. Blood speckles, no trail on the ground. Whistling chest wound is the only sound. 3-day march in the iron cold. System functions doing what they told. Kinetic energy locked in the bone. Walking the tiger completely alone. 3 days gone. 3 days gone. Calibration complete. Calibration complete. No soul in the marrow. Only the physics of the stride. Only the iron in the ribs. Clench, walk, bleed, win. Steel edge against the radius bone. My marrow code is set in stone. Calibrate the iron sight. Hold the gate through the night. Axial load on the femur shaft. Kill the flesh, the ancient craft. Logic gate in the neural mesh. Basalt teeth bite the human flesh. Stand, lock, block. Stand, lock. Basalt block. Stormborn, stone worn. Stormborn, fate sworn. Coils of the serpent at the streams. No more breath, no more dream. Calcifying skin cells start to crust. Armor plates are eating rust. Joints locking into granite now. Broken ribs a silent vow. Immovable boots in the permafrost. Geometry of the blood we lost. Physics law of the mountain base. Kill the clock, erase the face. Moss growing on the shoulders heavy. Broken veins are failing levy. System crash in the spinal cord. I am the shield, I am the horde. Eyes turning gray. Blood turning clay. Eyes turning gray. Stand until the end of day. Tendon slack is realigned. Organic waste is left behind. Suture the jaw, lock the gate. Biodata navigate. Thoracic cage of iron bars. Nerves of copper watching stars. Patella grind on the shale floor. Sentinel of the forever war. Coded fury in the calcium web. Watch the tide of the living ebb. Skeleton grid in a static state. Seal the entry, seal the fate. Static pulse in the bone marrow. Sight is locked, path is narrow. 0 temp in the optic nerve. One command that we serve. Cold steel real heal. Cold stone nerve bone. Stand lock, block. Stand lock, basalt block. Stormborn, stone worn. Stormborn, fate sworn. Coils of the serpent at the stream. frequency hum remains until silence. Strip the skin back to the calcium base, mapping the veins in this frozen dark place. Searing ice burns the input command. Kill the soft tissue that clings to the hand. My radius is hard and the owner is pure. Only the mineral is built to endure. Phalanges are dead and the marrow is cold. System reboot, leave the flesh in the mold. Amputated toes in the crevice of floor. I do not need them to stand anymore. Biogeometry strictly defined. Leave all the vulnerable layers behind. Fracture the surface to reach the design. Iron and marrow, the skeletal line. Black and necrotic flesh drop into snow. Only the structural integrity shows. Hardware of Viking, the logic of ice. Weakness extracted, the terminal price. Black and necrotic flesh drop into gray. Scrape all the biological errors away. Axis of tension, the geometry fits. Nothing remains but the hardened bits. Peripheral nerves are now severed and dry. Zero feedback signals, no reason to cry. Synaptic delay in the sub-zero state. Watch as the cells start to recalibrate. Tibial integrity density max. I am the anvil, I am the axe. Data is written in ligament scars. Frozen precision beneath the cold stars. Expose the femur to glacial decay. Wash all the useless pigment away. Interface frozen, the physics is clear. Molecules stopping, there's no room for fear. Fracture the surface to reach the design. Iron and marrow, the skeletal line. Necrotic flesh drop into snow. Only the structural integrity shows. Hardware of Viking, the logic of ice. Weakness extracted, the terminal price. Black and necrotic flesh dropping to gray. Scrape all the biological errors away. Axis of tension, the geometry fits. Nothing remains but the hardened bits. Bone machine. Bone machine. I got the connectivity, I break the link. Watch the synovial fluid all sink. Tendons are taut like a string on a bow. Recalibrate in the 0-degree glow. No soul in the system, no pulse in the core. Just the calculus of ancient war. Hardened calluses forming on knuckles of flint. Steel in the eye with a cybernetic glint. Necrosis is progress, the waste is expelled by the laws of the north. It's the structure of hell. Rib cage is armor, the titanium gate. Lungs are just bellows to process the state. Pelvic stability, mechanical stride. Nothing is left for the weakness to hide. I am the monolith, I am the stone. Built from the geometry hidden in bone. And necrotic flesh dropping to snow. Only the structural integrity shows. Hardware of Viking, the logic of ice. Weakness extracted, the terminal price. Black and necrotic flesh dropping to gray. Scrape all the biological errors away. Axis of tension, the geometry fits. Nothing remains but the hardened bits. Cauterizing with snow. Cauterizing with snow. Cauterizing with snow. The bleeding is done. The war of the body is finally won. No more attachment, no more decay. The ghost in the machine has been driven away.
logic in the marrow of the north. Send the final calculation
I stand on the pinnacle, the vector is clear. The geometry of ruin is all that we hear. Crumbling stone towers leaning out to the void. Every southern protocol is null and destroyed. Look at the masonry, it cracks like a rib. The empire is bleeding from the cradle and crib. System calibration set to 0 and cold. Watching ancient parchment turn to black water mold. The data of the conquest is written in silk. They suffocate now on the towers they built.
They built it, they fall.
Granity's failing, the physics is wrong. The dirge of the coastline
It's our only song.
Watch the banners drown in the throat of the sea. The tidal wave impact is setting us free. Kinetic destruction in the coastal collapse. The world is rebooting of the ocean red. No pity in tendons, no mercy in bone. The southern domain is a sinking stone.
Sinking stone.
Screams carried on, wine vibrating the nerve. The trajectory follows the downward curve. I measure the distance from the crack to the foam. There is no more sanctuary, no more home. Their ligaments shiver as the temperature drops. The heartbeat of industry suddenly stops. It is not a tragedy, it is just a reboot. The salt is the solvent for the blood in the loop. Vertebrae snapping, under pressure we're tied. There is no river, primitive cowards to hide.
No hide, no run.
Hard-coded fury in the pulse of the storm. The ocean is perfect, the water is norm.
calibration complete. Population deplete. Scan the horizon for the flicker of gold. The thermal signature is growing so cold.
I do not feel the weight of the dying. I only hear the gears of the scenery frying. The geometry of water is perfect and flat. No human emotion can alter that. I watch from the cliffs with the silent smirk. The waves are performing their natural work. Their total capacity is lost in the brine. The north and ascendancy is finally mine. Pairing the tendons from the body of state. The ocean is just a mid-date.
Open the gate.
No pulse in the city, no fire in the hall. I am the witness of the geometry fall. The marrow is frozen, the circuits are done. We are the stone and the stone has won. Watch the banners drown in the throat of the sea. The tidal wave impact is setting us free. Kinetic destruction in the coastal collapse. The world is remoting as the ocean wraps. No pity in tendons, no mercy in bone. The southern domain is a sinking stone.
Sinking stone.
The data is cleared. The land has been shared. Silence, smirk on the edge of the world. The banners are shredded. The banners are furled. Bones in the deep. System to sleep. Sleep.
Sinking stone. Open with a heavy crack. Black smoke filling up every track. I am cooking black food on the snow. Watch the lava in the valley below. Ribs are locking in the titanium cage. Writing the data on the final page. Lungs are burning with the chemical heat. Iron rhythm in the marching feet. I inhale the cinder in the grime. Breaking the geometry of time. Sulfur sticks to the back of the jaw. This is the new biological law. My nerves are firing like a shorted wire. Walking directly into the fire. System override. Override. Nowhere to hide. Nowhere to hide. Metabolize the ash in the air. Ghost of the caldera if you dare. Take any blood, this goes viscosity flows. Watch how the new evolution grows. Axe in the hand and a chip in the brain. Feeling the power but never the pain. Binary Valhalla, open the gate. I am the master of physical fate. Crack pores on the back of the neck. Run the diagnostic and run the check. Skin is turned into a hardened shell. Forging the vessel in a volcano hell. Scraping the carbon from the inner wall. Standing up straight and standing up tall. Muscles are cables of braided nylon. Crushing the skull of the enemy pile. Our blood is the coolant running through the vein. Feeding the hunger and killing the strain. Shield is the hardware rounding the arm. Safety is broken, trigger the alarm. Inhaling sulfur like it is a drug. Give the terminal a violent tug. Dilated gray hours are staring at death. Smoke is erupting with every single breath. Geometry of the strike is so clean. I am the spirit trapped in the machine. Ligament stretching like a heavy ball. Watch the viscosity start to slow. Bone is the chassis holding the weight. Closing the circle and sealing the gate. Teeth are grinding on the volcanic glass. Waiting for the weak and the coward to pass. No more flesh, just the iron and core. No more peace, only eternal war. Calibration complete. Calibration complete. Calibration complete. Bleed. Crushing the spine of the old world order. Crossing the line at the edge of the border. Fingers are claws made of hardened basalt. Bringing the logic of life to a halt. Tendons are snapping with electric force. Stay in the path and stay in the course. Calculating violence in every swing. Hear how the steel in the sidewall will ring. Ashen rebellion fire in the eye. Never will falter and never will die. Hard as a pump of the thickening oil. War from the heat of the volcanic soil. Metabolize the ash in the air. Close to the caldera if you dare. Thickening blood viscosity flows. Watch how the new evolution grows. Axe in the hand and a chip in the brain. Feeling the power but never the pain. Binary Valhalla, open the gate. I am the master of physical fate.
Orange light hits the blazing thatch roofs. Rib cage stiffens as the cold truth proofs. Fingers lock on the frozen leather pouch. Geometry is tight, no need to crouch. Ignored is the scent of the burning hair. Calibrated lungs inhale the scorching air. Spinal column straight as a rated spear. Logic in the accents, killing off the fear.
Prioritize the grave.
Ignore the ashes.
The current load.
Unbroken stride.
The vector line.
Ancient data.
By design.
Cartilage and bone hold a heavy stress. Executing exit from the burning mess. Ancestral volt is the only target node. Skin is blistering beneath the winter cold. Hardware of the hip swings a steady arc. Eyes fixed forward past the flying spark. No synapse wasted on the neighbor cries. Just the thermophysics of the settlement demise. Calcium in the beamer as a solid strut. Emotional pathways are forever shut. Calibrate the pressure on the leather strap. Navigating vitals through the burning trap. Biological engine pumping marrow thick. Ignoring the rhythm of the falling brick. Sub-zero storage is the mission end. Tendons in the shoulder will not snap or bend.
Carry the seed.
Through the boning.
Leave the burning.
Dead alone.
Frozen pouch.
Data core.
Carry the future.
Through the shore.
Unbroken stride.
Iron will.
Blood is cold.
Staying still. Nerves are fused to the handle of the gate. Ignoring the variables of local fate. System check on the purity of the grain. Neutral is the signal coming from the pain. And a comical leverage in the Achilles heel. Stepping through the ember with the weight of steel. Settlement Embodiment is data that is marked for loss. Preservation of the source is the only boss.
Firm is the landing of the heavy boot. Internal tempers dropping fast.
But the seed priority is made to last. Fibula and tibia, a linger path. Calculated distance from the village raft. Hemectus tissue locks the valuable load. Stomping down the sofa on the frozen road. Encryption of the species in the leather throat. Refusing to surrender to the beta code. Datches giving way to the crushing weight. Biometric locking at the Valhalla gate.
Prioritize the grade,
Ignore the ashes.
the current low,
Unbroken stride.
the vector line,
Ancient data.
by design.
Striding out to the wide horizon rim. Flame is flickering and her side is dim. But the pouch is cold and the vault is near.
Anatomical precision is the only gear.
Iron teeth bite through the frozen clay. Steel scrap salvaged from the slain today. Bent breastplate with a fractured curve. Stripping data from a severed nerve. Raw edges pressing on the dermis layer. Cold logic reaches for a broken layer. Infected wound edges turn a deadly gray. Flesh algorithms start to foul and fray. Lifting the lattice from a fallen shield. Forcing the calcium within the yield. Steel plates bolted to the outer ribs. Iron cradled in the thoracic ribs. Rust on the surface of the scavenged shard. Cutting the muscle where the scar is hard. Screwing the fasteners into the spine. Following the vertical conduit line. Calculating mass for the impact blow. Watching the leaking of the hematoma flow. Iron and marrow in the cold. Bones rewritten as the blades hold. Rusted spikes through the tendon line. Crushing the radius by design. Tightening leather straps over bone. Mutated physics on a frozen throne. Geometry of the axe and the gear. The code of the Viking is all we've drilled. To be yet to mount the guard. Screwing the piston where the bone is scarred. Merging iron and marrow in the deepest slot. Binding the tissue where the fibers rot. Calibrating torque in the elbow joints. Sharpening the apex at the focal point. No chemical buffer for the central core. Only the friction of the metal war. Infected wound edges start to swell and leak. Bolting the visor to the hollow cheek. Steel plates bolted to the lower ribs. Feeding the system with the oxygen dips. Mapping the trajectories of heavy steel. Crushing the femur with the weighted heel. Rusted spikes driven through the knuckle plate. Locking the pivot in a mortal state. Scanning the horizon for the thermal trace. Shield wall logic in a digital space. Iron and marrow in the cold. Bones rewritten as the blades hold. Rusted spikes through the tendon line. Crashing the radius by design. Tightening leather straps over bone. Mutated physics on a frozen throne. Geometry on the axe and the gear. The code of the Viking is all we fear. The nerve fused to the copper wire. Calcium burnt in the forging fire. Tightening leather straps over bone. Scavenged exoskeleton built from the dead. Steel crown welded to the aching head. Accelerating the mass of the war hammerhead. counting the volume of the flute I shed, integrating plates from the carcass pile, grinding the gears in a merciless style, merging iron and marrow in a frozen lock, cracking the yona on the anvil block, optic sensors in the sockets of mud, processing data in a river of blood. Rusted spikes staring through the fascia sheet, gritting the enamel of the fractured teeth. Calibration complete in the thoracic cage, channeling the output of the analog rage. Steel plates melt into the ribs again, ignoring the signal of the synaptic pain, dragging the pins through the patella cap, causing the serpent in the battlefield trap. Iron and marrow in the cold, bones rewritten as the blades hold, rusted spikes through the tendon line, crushing the radius by design, tightening leather straps over bone, mutated physics on a frozen throne, geometry of the axe and the gear, the code of the Viking is all we fear. Iron and marrow. Iron and marrow. Iron and marrow. Calibration.
Dum dum dum. The system boots in the marrow of the rib. I shed the life inside the wooden crib. The logic gates are frozen in the skull. I push the data through the frozen hull. My vertebrae are gaze of ancient steel. I grind the earth until it starts to reel. I see the valley in the crosshair sight. I freeze the nerve endings in the dead of night. Groaning blue ice is the only code. I overwrite the dirt upon the road. My tendons stretch across the crushing weight. I am the hardware of the northern fate. Calibration sets the standard low. I watch the mercury begin to go. Shield wall protocol is active now. I carve the binary into the brow.
Crushing bedrock with a glacial fist, I erase the valley in a frozen mist. System failure in the roots and brain. I am the geometry of total pain. Crushing bedrock as the sectors close. I lock the joints until the marrow froze. Cold protocols in the strata line. I own the landscape by the new design. Snapping pine trees like a fractured spine. I draw the white out on the grid and line. The sacral nerve is vibrating with cold. I crush the fagels that the old have told. My jaw was clamped around the granite floor. I am the closing of the final door. The kinetic energy is turning white. I kill the spectrum of the morning light. My muscles are the fascia on the move. I break the landscape in a frozen groove. I read the pressure in the trivial shaft. I cut the valleys with my deadly craft. Plummeting mercury in the artery wall. I watch the skeleton of nature fall. The algorithm is a winter storm. I shatter every biological form. My lungs are pumping liquid gas. I shatter temples into broken glass. I mark the coordinates within the eye. I watch the thermal signature of life die. The interface is etched in a white of gus. I grind the axes into frozen rust. I am the herald of the 0 point. I snap the ligament in every joint.
My breath turns into diamond dust. In the cold geometry we trust. No more pulse within the frozen clay. I write the sequence of the end of day.
Crushing bedrock with a glacial fist.
I erase the valley in a frozen mist.
System failure in the root and vein.
I am the geometry of total pain.
Crushing bedrock as the sectors close.
I lock the joints until the marrow froze. Cold protocols in a strata line. I own the landscape by the new design.
Ice is the logic.
Ice is the law.
I am the glacier.
I am the
dum 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 dum.
Systemic reboot. Calibration of the central nervous system. Eliminate the concept of pain. Redirect the signal. Blade runs deep across the radial nerve. Data hits the spine with the power I deserve. Synaptic firing in the frontal lobe. Iron in the blood on the silver robe. Tasting iron like a copper wire, setting every tendon on a white hot fire. Shatterings become a rhythmic drum, waiting for the dopamine flood to come. Smiling through a slash cheek wide and red, counting all the data in the logic thread. Axial skeleton is locked and tied, overclocking fibers for the endless fight. Rewrite the marrow and the bones, sit up on the jagged throne, burning through the frozen eyes, aiming for the highest prize. Laceration on the shoulder blade, calculated geometry of the crusade. Cortisol converting to a holy high, hyper-focused pupil aiming for the eye. Scanning the horizon for a fresh impact, keeping the anatomical machine intact. Fractured humerus is just a tool, ignoring every physics-based biological rule. Laughing at the laceration, deep and raw, broken jaw, obeying the kinetic law. My synovial fluid is a boiling oil, rooted in the ancient and the frozen soil. I am the circuit, I am the storm, heralding the human in a different form. No more agony, no more dread, only the adrenaline in the fray. I am the circuit, I am the blade, never retreating, never afraid. Carpal tunnel clenching on the hatchet grip, watch the digital endorphin levels flip. Sternum cracking like a thunderclap, mapping out the violence on a vector map. Occipital pressure in the base of the skull, keeping the emotional responses dull. Ligaments snapping like a heavy cable, clear the data stream upon the killing cable. Scars are just the lines of the master script, into the subconscious I have slowly dipped. Thoracic cavity is holding steam, living in the middle of a war machine. My nerves are wires, my veins are fires, my bone is iron, my heart is iron. Processing, processing. I am the circuit, I am the storm, rewriting the human in a different form. No more agony, no more dread, only the adrenaline in the thread. I am the circuit, I am the blade, never retreating, never afraid.
Iron rib cage in the void of the frost. Binary sigils on shields that were lost. Electron orbits are slow into sleep. Crystalline geometry anchored so deep. Calibration of marrow and steel. Bones are the only reality real. Scanning the data, 1x heads of volt. Liquid is solid, the system is cold. Nerve endings locking in static array. Logic is conquering light of the day. Suspended animation inside of the chest. Iron and ice in a binary rest. The glacier is low.
No more motion.
No more thought.
Crystal is hell, structure is set. Death is a death that the physics have met. Molecular motion is forced to a stop. Iron and frost from the bottom to top. Absolute zero is carved in the bone. Sitting forever on silicon chrome. Data intended and ice in the vein. The close of a LLF fixed in the brain.
Shield wall is frozen in perfect design. Geometry mapping the vertebrae line. Axes are calibrated sharp to the atom. Lungs are just ice in the frozen stratum. No more pulsation of artery walls. Only the silence in digital walls. Raven sensors are circling the dead. Hard drive is heavy inside of the head. Sub-zero logic in every joint. Reaching the singular freezing point. Connective tissue has turned into glass. Waiting for centuries slowly to pass.
Odin is cold.
The glacier is low.
No more motion.
No more thought.
Crystal is hell, structure is set. Deep is a depth that the physics have met. Molecular motion is forced to a stop. The iron and frost from the bottom to top. Absolute zero is carved in the bone. Sitting forever on silicon throne. Data intendings and ice in the vein. It goes of a hell fixed in the brain.
Eternal stillness, kinetic death. No more vapor, no more breath. 0 Kelvin is reaching the core. Locking the hinges and locking the door. Scanning the nervous system for heat. Mission is final and ice is complete. Frozen hard valves are stuck in the ice. Paying the physical ultimate price. Skull is a valve for the northern storm. Nothing is fluid and nothing is warm. Bone marrow turning to silver and gray. Teutomy's zoology leading the way. Axe handle fused to the grip of the fist. Existences.
Crystal cell structure is set. Death is a death that the physics have met. Molecular motion is forced to a stop. The iron and frost from the bottom to top. Pressure drops low in the interstitial space. I recalibrate the rhythm with a spiked mace. Handed snap tight like a copper wire lead. The system only boots when the targets bleed. Chest pain on pause like the system shut down. I need the vibration to reclaim the crown. Rib cages clapping on the internal pump. I swing the heavy iron for the sudden thump. Engine of Gore, feed the machine. Burn in the ash, data is clean. If the blade stops, the muscle will fail. Blood is the oil on the Nordic trail. Engine of Gore, systems alive. Only through slaughter does biology thrive. The pulse is a binary geometry trick. Each kill is the gear with the audible click. Adrenaline withdrawal makes the fingers twitch. I am just a circuit with a bloody switch. Calibration stable in the shattered skull. The nervous system operates within the lull. I'm at the vectors of the severed neck. The physics of the impact keep the heart in check. Geometry of violence is the only code. I dump the excess data on the frozen road. Bone marrow, nerve, the metal is the lung. Bone marrow, nerve, the carnage is the tongue. Slaughterhouse ruins of the sanctuary grid. I unlock the secret that the ancestors hid. Pooling gore is liquid for the cooling unit. I tune the frequency and then I run it. Nerves are firing in the calculated burst. I quench the cybernetic and the primal thirst. Splinter ribs are scaffolding for flesh and wire. I reignite the piston with the inner fire. Static in the marrow when the motion ends. The logic of the anatomy slowly bends. Static in the marrow when the motion ends. The logic of the anatomy slowly bends. Cardiac arrest, restoring, silencing cold. The story of the stasis is a death untold. I feel the seizure in the ventricle wall. I need the shriek or I will surely fall. My chest is a vacuum, my breath is a void. Without the slaughter I am wholly destroyed. I grip the shaft and I force the reboot. I reap the crimson as the primary fruit. The pressure is building, the bounce are wide. There is no emotion existing inside. Just hard drive logic and the axe in the hand. I calibrate death on this frozen land. The geometry bursts when the skeleton breaks. I feed on the friction of the violent states. Engine of gore, feed the machine. Bone in the ash, data is clean. If the blade stops, the muscle will fail. Blood is the oil on the Nordic trail. Engine of gore, systems alive. Only through slaughter does biology thrive. Diagnosis a binary geometry trick. Each kill is the gear with the audible click. System error in the quiet state. I must keep gelling to negotiate fate. Stays black, spine on the lace till the vertebrae crack. Sifting the carbon to isolate lead. I run the macro and harvest the dead. Ash stain hands clutch the titanium scale. Hard data points within every trade. A nail grinding the skulls into microfine dust. Converting the marrow to anti-corrosive rust. I read the density of calcified shale. Measuring the weight of the warriors who fail. Scrape the incisors from the shattered jawbone. This is the logic that stands all alone. Flesh is the error, the skeletons are clean. I am the architect inside the machine. Map the radius of the crushed sternum plate. Physical geometry decides every fate. Lock the coordinates and set the grid line. Everything organic must eventually realign. Scapula stacked in a vertical tier. Systemic removal of physiological fear. Fibula struts for the underground base. I wipe the weakness right off of the face. Calcified bones for the mortar I grind. Geometry terror is all I design. Blueprints of calcium written in ash. I am the reckoning, I am the crash. So cold wind is howling through rib cage and nerve. This is the structure that the gods will deserve. Calibrate radius of shattered femur. Systemic failure of every blasphemer. Mapping the tennis to measure the low biological data inside of the code. Mortar is steady with the crushed kneecap salt. No one can bring this construction to halt. I build the walls with a humorous beam. Harder than I and sharper than steam. Nerve and wired to the central control. I am rebuilding the physical whole. Thermal conduction through the ulna and hip. Tighten the coast and the ligament slip. Clavicle joints for the hinge on the gate. Nothing but physics can carry the weight. Metacarpal shards in the foundation slab. I am the surgeon opponents, no labs. Get in the pelvis for structural cracks. I hit the temple with heavy metal axes. Geometry dictates the slope of the roof. Everything shatters, but the logic is proof. I am the owner of the carbon remains. Running the program through oxidized veins. Calcified bones for the mortar high grind. Geometric terror is all I design. Blueprints of calcium written in ash. I am the reckoning, I am the crash. Cold wind is howling through rib cage and nerve. This is the structure that the gods will deserve. Bone mortar, bone mortar. This is the system load. Flesh into ash, into bone, into gold. Flesh into ash, into bone, into gold. Gratuitous onto the volume is null. I am the master of the empty, no flaw. Four sequels last time the way to the kill. Iron on iron, you rule up a will. Nothing is sacred but the physical law. I am the wolf with the jig geometry jaw. Wind howling loud.
out to the rib cage is raw. Structure is governed by physical law. Skulls to the crusher to level the floor. I build the columns and open the door. Phalanges arranged in a fractal array. Dark pencils coming to finish the day. Blueproofing red on the max in a play. I am the one who decides in a way. Calcium fillers and ash stains foundations. No more lamenting for the fallen nations. Look at the angles of rock and rift wire. Forged in the center of the carbon fire. I am the ruthless designer of waste. Everything human is slowly erased. Only the bone and the mortar remain. Only the logic of structural pain.
Freezes in the static hub. We grind the shield against the iron sub. The geometry of ribs is locked in place. A billion nerves across the interface. We calibrate the shiver in the bone. The frequency is etched in heavy stone. The data streams through every frozen vein. We are the logic of the ancient pain. The system calculates the weight of steel. We force the tendons to the spinning wheel. No ghost inside, just carving in the frost. The checksum validates the lives we lost. We format every skull into the grid. We open up the vault the fathers hid. The architecture of the shattered spine is written in a cold and binary line. Monolith of voices, voices. Millions in the wall, the wall. Resonant frequency, frequency. Ice will never fall. Vibrating glaciers, glaciers. Infinite the echo, echo. Power in the numbers, numbers. Valhalla is the deco, deco. We measure pressure in the hollow chest. The hardware survived the final test. We are the cluster at the frozen gate. We are the hard drive for the kings of hate. The calibrated marrow starts to hum. We beat the rhythm on a hollow drum. No ego functions in the hive command. We are the permafrost across the land. The physics of the axis crystal clear. We delete the vibration known as fear. We map the synapse to the northern star. We know exactly where the traitors are. Scan the horizon to the signal flare. Ice in the lungs and toxic in the air. We compress the screams into a single note. We tighten up the grip around the throat. Monolith of voices, voices. Millions in the wall, the wall. Resonant frequency, frequency. Ice will never fall. Vibrating glaciers, glaciers. Infinite the echo, echo. Power in the numbers, numbers. Valhalla is the deco, deco. 0 point energy, sub-zero synergy. The nerves are wires, the bones are spires. Calibration complete, processing the defeat. We are the monolith, we are the only myth. The marrow is the fuel for the flame. We have removed the letters of the name. We are the mass of frozen vocal cords. We are the blades and we are all the lords. The data packet is a severed head. We network all the army of the dead. We sync the heartbeat to the master clock. We are the shale and we are all the rock. Iron in the fluid, up in the ear. We broadcast every bit of ancient fear. The structure of the pelvis is a base. We run the program on the human race. Locked in the strata of the glacial wall, waiting for the command to end it all. The skeleton is titanium and rust. Return the circuitry.